Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Good morning, Glenn. How are you? Happy to be here with me. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me, Sifu.
Did you like what I said? Happy to be here with me?
Yeah.
You got to always be happy to be with yourself, right? But
Totally,
I'm
yeah.
thrilled that you're taking the time to be here with us and share some experiences that have shaped who you are.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's get to the beginning, right? Where were you born? And then the second question to that is, who would you say influenced you before the age of 10, 15?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So yeah, I was actually born. I was born if you take a dart and throw it exactly in the middle of the country, I was born in Kansas, and then grew up mostly in Pennsylvania, and both on the East Coast of Pennsylvania and the West Coast of Pennsylvania. So if you're from Pennsylvania, you know there's two different distinct parts of Pennsylvania. So it was on the East Coast and West Coast, and went to college in Ohio in Bowling Green State University, where I was a Division I NCAA athlete. And and that all those things were very formative to my years and to becoming the entrepreneur, and that really has driven me towards this work that we're doing right now that we'll talk about. And so who was it before 10 years old that I don't have to remember back.
Who influenced you the most that you can say, wow, because of them, when we look back, certain acts or not only acts, but certain experiences shaped us even when we don't realize it till we go back and look into them, right?
Yeah, 10 years old. So that's a long time ago. But what I remember, maybe not from 10, but maybe around 10 to 12 age group. Yeah, is that was right. That was interestingly right around. It was 1984. If I'm going to age myself, was when this is the year I specifically remember. I was sick with mono, and I was at home a lot, and for that time period, and I remember January 1984 is when was my birthday. I was guessing turning 12 at the time, and there was a magazine. It's escaping me now, but it was a computer magazine, and it was 1984. That was the big 1984 George Orwell 1984 time period, and that I remember getting that computer magazine, and that just being everything that really just opened my mind and got me excited. And my mother was amazing. She's super creative and really was a huge influence on my innovation, I think, and curiosity, and just to be encouraged to be able to believe whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. And the confluence of, that time period where the personal computer revolution was coming up into the world, and I was just coming up in the world, and the influence of being able to just be curious and be creative, those things really just converge together, I think, to make me do a lot to make me who I am today. Yeah.
I love it. You said at 12, was it at 6 or was it at 12 when you had mono?
Oh, when I was 12. Okay. Yeah.
So were you kissing a lot of people? Isn't that the kissing?
No, I don't know what. I don't know how I got it, but it was mononucleosis. I remember, and just being down hard for weeks, and just being able, just because I remember that distinctly, because you're home from
Yeah.
school, but you could get whatever you want, because I was almost on felt like death's doorstep. And so I'm like, oh, I want this magazine, and I want to have this. I got a computer soon after that. I got the Commodore 64 soon after that, and that was quite amazing device that anyone of our generation that had a computer knows that computer was pretty phenomenal, and saved a lot of people's lives.
It sure did. And this is when you had to put in the little cards in the computers, and it was dots and all this. It was interesting. So you said your mom was a big influence on you.
Yeah.
What would you say was one thing, if you had to pick out one thing that really stuck out between you and your mom that influenced you, that you maybe even think about even today?
I think to just be able to just look around with what the things you have in your life, and be, how can I make this into something? Like I said, the creativity. I know now we didn't have a lot then. For when you're a kid, you don't know those things. You just live in the world that you live in. But knowing that how much you could take around you and make something special out of it, be creative with what's around you, be grateful for what's around you, and I think that's really so essential when you're an entrepreneur. We're all working under constraints, as a business owner, or even in any of our lives. We all have constraints around it, and that's really just drives the creativity. And to be able to look around and say, okay, what do I have? What can I work with? And what capacity do I have inside myself? And as we're talking through this is actually really interesting. That this is good. These are good questions. What makes you so good at this, right? Is that that's really what we get to the heart of what the solution focused approach that we have at Stamina Lab is around that. What capacity and resources do you have already inside yourself to be able to that shows that you're on the path to who you want to be. And I think that's plays out not just only for your internal resources and what you want to bring bear to the game, but also what what you have resources otherwise, and what things around you, and what can you tap into, people, places, things around you. Yeah,
love it. So you talked about being an athlete. When did you start playing sports, and what sport were you playing? Or what body modality did you adapt to?
Yeah. I started in ninth grade when I started running track and cross country, and such a powerful experience for belonging. I just moved from, again, I told you I moved 3 different times there, and I just moved from Eastern Pennsylvania to Western Pennsylvania as I started high school, I mean. And so track and cross country was so foundational for me to be able to have a belonging, but also I excelled at it. And so that was something that was so fulfilling for me. And I went on to become a scholarship athlete at Division I school. So obviously doing it pretty well. It gives you motivation. It gives you discipline. Like I said, belonging already. And now that I know that from decades of doing it, maybe not as obviously, definitely not at competitive level that I was there then, but that compounding of those activities over and over and over for a long period of time has definitely allowed me to have a set of biological resources inside, physiological resources inside of myself that is fantastic for me now, for my health and well-being. So yeah, and you can start that anytime. So, but I started when I was in ninth grade. Yeah.
Ninth grade. So in ninth grade, you already had mono, right? So you went through that.
Yeah.
You're understanding your body. You understand how it moves, so that when you're playing any sport, right? And how many sports did you play, as an athlete?
Yeah, no. So that was my main one. It takes a lot of time, especially if you want to compete at Division I level, that's really takes up your whole time. I did a lot of cycling too as well. I did competitive cycling, which was fantastic. Golf was another key area. I think golf is life, and it's fantastic sport for me. I mean, everyone, whatever, it's the best sport is one you play, the best activity is the one you do. But for me, sports, golf is life. It teaches you patience. It's it's rules, ethics. You're in the outdoors. Everything's it's mechanics through the body. And so that's one I still enjoy playing today. And you never master it. You have to. And, I like the Ted Lasso thing, to be a goldfish. When something bad happens, you have to shake it off, and that's so important in golf. Not letting your the past anxiety of that whatever bad shot you had before affect your future, or the stress in the future about what you're worried about to affect your present shot. It's all about being in that mindful moment. So like I said, golf is a metaphor for life. So that's what those are the ones I really do. I think though, after high school and college, that's almost like 10 years of competing at the highest level. Definitely was burned out on that. And I took a step back from that. And also I was like, I can never compete at this level. With these, I had Olympic trial athletes on my team, and my coach was an Olympic athlete. So, that was like, okay, I made it to my best. I did my best, and let me put that on the shelf. And I would race occasionally here, and I'd run for health. But it wasn't only until recently where in the last, 3 or 4 years, where I started picking up running competitively again. I definitely realized that, okay, you're not your 20-some-year-old self anymore. So you can't, I was always going to be, never going to be able to be that good. I'm like, well, that person's no longer here. That one's way gone. So who can you be the best now at 50 years old?
I love that. Yes.
So I view everything as a PR now, because this is the 50-year-old PR. And so I started racing again a few years ago when I moved to Austin, Texas. And I joined a running group, and it's been really fantastic. And now I'm training for my first marathon that's coming up. So
oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
I had a client in one aspect, and he wanted, I think he was 56. He said, I want to do something different. So he started running. And then he said, Sifu, who do you recommend? I need a running coach. I don't want a weightlifting coach. I don't want an aerobic coach. I don't want, because I'm helping him with other aspects. So I can recommend somebody to you, right? So I recommended him this guy that I knew, and he was in heaven. Once he met this coach, he goes, oh my God. Not only did he videotape me running, but then he showed me how I was running, and then he showed me the differences. He goes, what a difference I've felt since I started running with the coach you told me about. And it was night and day for him, because a lot of times, this is why I think coaching is so prevalent and so important in our lives, right? Because I also don't want to be with anybody who doesn't have a coach. Who's my coach, right? If you're my coach, you better have a coach. So for me, it was just seeing the brightness in him with something he wanted to do. And he thought, because everybody knows how to run, don't they? And I said to him, not really. I said, there's mechanics that go behind it that you may not understand, because you ran as a kid. Now have somebody else look at you. And he goes, okay, I'll talk to you, guy. And once he did, he thanked me so much. He goes, what a difference. And then he went into ultra marathons and all this stuff at 56.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love those kind of stories.
He started with a coach who understood where he wanted to go to.
Right? Yeah. And that's really what the most essential piece of coaching someone is what do you want? Where do you want to go? Because you can be stuck in, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go here. I don't want that. We always like to have the metaphor of the cab driver, where where we say, okay, that you pull up, the cab pulls up and you get in the cab and you see that the cab said, where do you want to go? Like, well, I don't want to go over there. That stresses me out. I don't want to go there. That gives me anxiety. That person is upsetting me. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to do that. Like, okay, the cab driver said, okay, fine, but where do you want to go? I can't pull away from the curve until you tell me where you want to go. And, that's really where that's where the journey begins, is what do you want? What difference will it make for you? And I love those stories of anybody who's still going down that road, no matter what age.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you felt like you had enough, right? In college. Where did that leave you? And before we go into your college, right? You had obviously had coaches along the way.
Oh yeah.
Who would you say was one of the ones that really, whether it is the way they trained you or the way they mentally trained you? Because there's two differences.
Totally. And I was thinking that same thing when you were talking about your client there, is that yes, you can mechanically get yourself running correctly and running really well. And you can get the endurance and the cardiovascular strength up. And especially when you get these longer races, especially at the longer races, there's so much that comes down to that mental conversation you're having with yourself, that mental strength that you have, that mental resilience that you have. And I see that many, many times with other people I know and run with is, yes, I can see that even they're younger and definitely stronger than me because of that, because of their age at least. But that when it comes to these races, there's a level of mental resilience that I have from just been running so long and at such a high competitive level, but also, being an entrepreneur, it's the same type of mindset you have to have, or the same type of mental resilience that you're trying to build, is that there's so much that could go wrong. There's so many self-doubt that you could have. And it's constantly having that, to be able to build that muscle in itself. That's important. And I remember, I had several great coaches when I was in high school and college. And my high school coach was fantastic. Clem Papik. Clem, if you're Mr. Papik, if you're here listening, that's fantastic. He was so important for me. But there was a coach that, and his name is I'm blanking on, but we would go to.
Let's call him Bob.
I got to look up who it is, but we would go to a running camp over the summer. And when I did it in high school, and then in college, I was an instructor for it. And for 1 week, we would run we would run 100 miles in that week. You're running 3 times a day, and you're not doing anything else, so it's somewhat easier to do. So we ran, but the majority of the time we spent was on mental conversations. And as a high school kid, you're like, oh, we're spending a lot of time doing this mental conversation. I don't understand it. But all right, this guy coached champions. Especially when you're that young, you just listen, mimic what other people do that are more successful. You're really not being that creative. You're just like, what do they do? They follow that same thing. Oh, they listen to classical music. I'll listen to classical music. Whatever the thing was. And what was really stood out was how much time we spent on that, and how much time we spent on visualization. And one story in particular stood out for me is that, there was he told us, there's a time, and this is true, before you go to bed and right when you wake up, there's a time where your brain is in this conscious state, where you're able to talk to your default mode network of your brain, where it has, all the back processes that move so fast and analyze things and solve deep problems. When you sleep on it type responses, there's actually stuff going on, as you know. Mm-hmm. And so he said, that's a very important liminal space. So I said, all right, let's just do what he says. I don't believe it. And I put up a sign right beside my bed when I was in high school that said, hey, I wanted to run 429.9 mile at this race. And I wasn't even, but coming into that race, I wasn't even close to it. But for 5 months, I woke up to that number. I fell asleep to
Right.
that number every
Right.
night. And I was probably 20 seconds off of that. I mean, if you've ever tried to run 20 seconds at a mile time, that's a lot of time to take off. Sure as hell not. That race, I ran 4:28.8.
Wow.
I
Wow.
was 28 20 some seconds off that time, and I'm like, all right, I believe this. And it's true.
It does work.
Yeah, the visualization and the ability to just tap into that subconscious to really believe it at a deep, deep, deep level. That visualization is so important to once you know where you want to go and what difference was going to make. And just what would you notice you'd be doing? What would other people notice you'd be doing? All those things to visualize in the most clear possible way you can. That our brain doesn't know the difference between the past, present, and future clearly. And that
Mhm.
story illustrated it. That
Right.
if you can visualize it at the deepest level, the brain will figure it out a way to get there. It'll take away all those time, money, people, rain, weather, whatever, any of the fatigue, or any of the things that are going to block you potentially from trying to figure out how to get there. If you've already visualized that and you've already been there, it'll figure it out a way to get there.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting when you have something to look forward to, and in the back of your mind, it's telling you you can achieve it, right? Or you can say I won't achieve it, and you're going to believe either one. So I rather believe the achieving one.
Yeah.
I have a client. I also teach martial arts, and he's actually 11. And just recently, about 3 months ago, he decided to join the track team. And because he's been doing kung fu with me since he was 4.5, he's always fast. He's always willing to win. He used to cry when he didn't win, right? When he was little, he used to cry. Eventually, I got him out of that. And his dad used to laugh all the time. His dad told me because of kung fu, because of the way he's built his body and the strength of his legs, he joined the team, and he's beating everybody on the team who's been on the team a lot longer than him. And he said he just completed a 2-mile run under 12 minutes
Oh, wow.
for the
Wow.
only running for
And how old
three
is he?
months. He's 11.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it was like 11:48 that he did 2 miles in, right?
That's
So,
incredible.
and the kid is fast, but he's going for this whole thing, and and he's all excited about it and everything. But he became a black belt with me, a junior black belt, because I would never give anybody a full black belt until they're 18. But the kid is phenomenal. He is very keen on his body. He understands. He eats right. He does all the things. He's got a 6-pack, you know.
Mhm.
For a little kid, you got, like, most little kids don't care about having a 6-pack, but this kid does. If you look at his arms, he's all cut up and everything. I'm like, wow, this kid is really into who he is, and he strives always to do more. When he sees somebody doing really well, he's like, oh, I got to do better than them. So it's that competitive edge that he understands. Because one of the things I always tell him, and his dad is also a member of my martial arts program, his dad is like, oh man, he is so competitive. He is beyond competitive. He goes, I can't put a limit on him because he doesn't put it on himself. And I said, well, don't. I said, don't do that to him, right? So let's talk about
What do
you
you
said,
do? What do you do with him if there's so inevitably there's going to be a loss because at some point if you keep pushing to the top, there's eventually you're going to hit
I made sure he lost when
Okay.
he was, because he would cry.
Yeah.
And every time he would cry, I go, why are you crying? Because I lost, and I would be like, okay. I said, you know what? What did you learn?
Yeah.
And what did I learn? I hate it. That's what I learned. I said, no, 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 no. What does that mean? Maybe you got to do better. Maybe you got to train here. Maybe you got to do this part. Maybe you got to do that part. And the more I kept putting that into him, and I said, maybe your body has to go like this. Maybe you have to train this part of your body. Da, da, da. And then all of a sudden, he started to understand it. And sometimes now I go, when you win, you see how the other kids are celebrating you? I said, when you're crying, you're not celebrating anybody. And nobody's going to celebrate you when you're crying. So he
Yeah.
started understanding that concept. And now he's phenomenal. So even when he loses, I look at him just to see how he does. And he's fine. He's actually clapping for the other kids. And he's the first one now to go and congratulate them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's
Yeah,
really
and the other thing, too, in those situations, and this is what I look at when there's a failure, quote unquote failure, or you didn't live up to your expectations, especially in any type of behavior change. It's not a linear path, so you're gonna have ups and downs. It's to notice, or be a detective in your own capacity. Like what did you do? What's things you did? What kept you from doing even worse? Oh no, but I did do this, and this, and that can shift you out of that funk to then start to work on the skills that you want to improve on. But it's that shift that you need to get out of, and it's really what did you do that kept you from even being worse? Like, well, no, it wasn't worse because I still was finished second, or I still gave my best. Yeah.
And then one of the other things, and I would always ask the kids, who's your favorite sports athlete, right? And they would mention them, and I go, they don't always win.
Yeah.
I said, but when they lose, you know what they do? They evaluate. That's why all professional athletes go back and look at the videotape. And so sometimes when they're doing something, I videotape them without them knowing it. And then I show them. And I'll go, you see how you're moving? You see this? Because one of the things that even my instructors, I teach them about body alignment and body mechanics. And every time they're doing something, I'm like, look at your arm, look at your leg, look at your posture, you're shifting, all these different things. And then they understand that I'm not just criticizing them. I'm letting them know that these little adjustments will make a difference in their performance. And
yeah,
so
I think there's two different
trust, right? That comes in, right?
Yeah, I think there's two different parts of coaching too. I think it's important to know is that it goes to the mechanical part of coaching. I don't know. I need someone to show me how to swing that golf club. I can't mentally figure that out. That someone has to actually physically show me that, or how to properly lift the weight. Someone has to be the coach to do that piece. And then there's the coaching where where you're working on the mental aspect of it. And I think that's important from people looking for coach or trying to understand coaching, is to know that there's a coach can do both. Obviously, you can definitely have a great coach can do both. But to know that there's times when you're doing that mechanical part of it, that's this is exactly how you do it. This is why we're recording this. And then there's the part where what did you learn, or what did you notice? Why didn't you what kept you from doing even worse? That type questions that we're really trying to get into that mental resilience, the brain training.
So talk to me about you said you kind of you did it in high school, you did it in college, but then there was a point where you kind of stopped, or you moved on, or you changed. Tell us about what was that like?
Yeah. So after college, I pretty much said, okay, my last race was my fastest. I ran a half mile with my half mile time, and I ran 1:52 with my half mile time. So I finished that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to race faster. So I kind of hung up. I don't think I've ever worn track spikes since then. Nope, I don't think so. So I eventually hung up the track spikes from that. And I did go back and help coach my high school cross country team.
Oh, nice.
They hadn't been to states since the year after I left. So I went back, and my coaching, I just went to the assistant coaches or the coaches and said, can I help out? I just finished college. Can I? I'm in fantastic shape. So my coaching program it was a really great coaching program. I just basically ran with the kids, and they were really interested in college stories. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll tell you the college stories. And I start off running slow and start telling the story, and then gradually speed up the pace that we were running. And they just wanted to hear the story. So, if you're listening,
you gotta keep up, right?
You got to keep up for the story. And so I just did that over and over and over again. And we eventually went back to the state championships again. So it was really highly rewarding to do. But never again was like, I didn't compete against the clock I was racing, just because it was that clock that was the limiting factor. And I would run maybe once every 5 or 6 years against the clock and just say, oh, let's see where I'm at, not major training. But I poured all my energy into into starting my company. I started my company when I was 25 years old, my first company. And I said, okay, well, if you put so much energy into your track and cross country endeavors and obviously college, let's say if we instead of them being scattered in multiple things, let's just what if we put all the focus into this one thing? What would happen if we did that? And it was successful, very successful. You know, we had a company we ran for 20 years and it was in the digital marketing space. And we had, you know, hundreds and hundreds of employees over the time that we were there, that we were doing it, and very rewarding. I learned a lot. It was so much fun to do, and challenging. You know, if you want to be in growth mode, be an entrepreneur, because you have nothing, there's no choice every day to try to grow and have to really check yourself, what you can do, you know, what you need to do, how you have to learn like fast as possible. You're flying a jet and you're having to fix it and create it as you go. So that's basically what I did. I put all my energy into being an entrepreneur. And I think where I got burned out again on that. And what where I'm at now is around that same time period. I'm like, okay, once I realized I was burning out, I'm like, I need to go back to some of the fundamentals that I had with at track and cross country. It was an athlete, is to go back to those fundamentals, because that as a baseline, that structure, that does me really well. That, you know, just being able to live around that structure, you know, it drives recovery, sleep and recovery. It drives nutrition. You know, all the things you need, all the base fuel you need, the movement, the mental energy you have, all that comes from, you know, that kind of physical activity. And so then once you have that foundation, you can build off of it really well. And that's how I got into this work, really, this behavioral science work.
I love it. Let me share this with you and then we can talk. You followed the rules, tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy. You're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind-Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today. Yeah, so when you were talking about all that, I'm like, oh, you're talking about my program, Glenn. So let's think about everything that you talked about. And this is the reason I created that program, because I love entrepreneurs, right? Because I'm one. I've been one for, since I was in high school myself, right? Probably even before that, probably middle school, because I started working when I was 10, and I was making bank back then.
For 10-year-old, yeah.
No, for a 10-year-old, I was making more than I was making $100 a week when I was 10.
Oh wow!
Back.
Yeah.
Decades ago.
Yeah.
So, well, $100 a week, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
For a little guy. And so for me, what I've seen so much is people worry and constantly go after their business, their passion, but one thing they forget is the most important element: themselves.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so many people, you see them, they're thriving in their business, but they're dying, both inside, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually too. So this is why I created Sifu's Mind-Body Method. So it seems like you and I align really well.
For sure, yeah, and that's where I got to the point where I said, okay, we sold the company. It was, did well, and I said, okay, if I want to do this again, I was already down the path. If I want to do this again, I really need to make sure that I understand how I can prevent that from happening. That was one trigger. There was also the fact that not only was it me that would have challenges, all my team members. So, well, even if I was an expert technologist, finance strategist, and being able to get a product developer, all the things, and we had a great direction and team, but you have to get the people to move in that direction. So there's some change management and there's some behavioral science inside the organization. But not only that, okay, why you keep coming in late every Tuesday or Wednesday? I'm like, why does this keep happening? Oh well, there's a problem with I'm getting divorced, or my divorced and my kids transfer days. Like, oh, not only do I have to solve the strategy of the company and where we're going to go, and also change management within the organization, but I have to help solve your home problem as well, or at least not solve it, but at least get help you be able to mitigate that, bringing it to the worker. So there's the behavior change within my team, and that's where I look at coaching for organizations. That what we do at Stamina Lab too as well is that instead of, or in addition to, like performance reviews, and I really say instead of, being able to ongoing coach your team is so essential to be able to be successful at the very, at the end of the financial part of the success and the impact of your business. So that was another trigger too, is not only for myself, but how do I help move my team in a direction for them to excel. And I didn't expect to get this far down the road of coaching and in building a coaching a platform for this solution focused approach that we use that underlines everything we do. But I started meeting with some experts in the field. My partner, Dr. Deborah Teplo, is a PhD in this, and I got so far down the road that I had to learn it, and now I can coach it. And so it's pretty fantastic, just the impact you can have on people, as with people get to that point where they're just stuck, and they've tried everything. And I like that the little commercial you had there. We have these, and that was the third piece of the puzzle too. It was myself and the team, but also I get one of these wearables, and really early on, the wearables would be thrown away after 6 months, and because they didn't impact change. And I'm like, well, if this doesn't impact change, what does? And that question, that thread that I pulled on, got me to where we are, because data alone doesn't do it. And data alone, obviously, lots of times gives you anxiety and stress. And, you end up, where the guilt and shame that comes into play. And that's really key to the solution focused approach. Is it takes away that guilt and shame. Is that, like that question I asked about the student you had is like, well, what kept you from doing even worse? And that shift is, instead of beating you up, it's like, wait a second. No, wait, I did this, and this. And we hear all the time, like, hey, I'm further along than I thought I was, because you start highlighting the things that they're already doing, the stuff that they're already on the path doing. And the people that are listening to this podcast right now, they are already on the path to being who they want to be, because this is evidence that of their capacity to change. They're doing it right now.
I love that. And when we think about the capacity that we have is, if we think that there's a ceiling, we're going to hit that ceiling every time. And so I have no ceilings, right? I know you have no ceilings. But when we think about elevating ourselves, right, we can't do it alone. So we need a team, right? I love the name of your company, Stamina Lab, right? I mean, because stamina is built on your actions. You're not born with incredible stamina. I think it's the actions, how we created, how you improved, just by putting that time by your bed. You had to see it in the morning, you had to see it at night, so it's that top of mind. But then the actions that you took, because you can say, listen, I'm going to run a 4-minute mile, but yet you never ran before. And you can have that on your bedpost every day, and you can see it. And then one day you go, today's the day I'm going to run that 4-minute mile. Guess what? You're not going to do it, because it takes certain amount of breath work. It takes certain amount of stamina, right?
Yeah.
diligence, mechanics, everything that has to go into it. So having an idea or a plan is great, but taking action on it is truly what's going to make it happen.
Yeah. And so, we talked about already, the first step is, where do you want to go? Tell that cab driver where you want to go, and what difference will it make? And what would you notice you'd be doing? That's all that visualization that we talked about. It's having that 4-minute mile, 4:28 mile in the case of the high school, is to visualize it in the most detail as possible. And then ask yourself, what's one thing I could do, even the smallest thing I could do right now or the next 24 hours that would tell me that I'm on that path, on that direction. Like I said, you're already listening to this podcast, so there's one evidence that you're already doing it. And being a detective in your own life, like, what is evidence? Because you want to build that momentum. You want to build that momentum to say, okay, these are all the things I'm doing, because then it makes the next thing even easier. It makes the next thing even easier. And what I really like about this approach, as opposed to like building rigid habits, is that they're rigid, and there's so many things can throw you off from your habit, because you have an anchor that cues you to do the habit, and then you do the habit. But you have you have context that would change. You could be, it's the weekday or the weekend, or you're traveling is a huge one that changes your context, or your family's visiting, or that you feel bad, or the sickness or the weather. There's so many variables that could say, okay, well, this habit is not going to happen. But if you're just asking yourself, what's one thing I could do, even the smallest thing that would still put me on, that still shows me that I'm on that path, that we like to say there's many paths to the same river, and our river is the person we want to be, the values that we want to show up with every day. And when you say that, then like now there's infinite. Our brain gets super creative and says, oh, there's infinite ways. It's just by asking that question. Put yourself in action, as you were saying, and putting yourself in action in the moment. And whenever you're starting to feel bad about guilt and shame, what kept you from doing even worse, or how do you know the stamina is also about resilience, I think. And really looking at saying, how did I even manage, or what in the past tells me that I can do this, to get your motivation. Like in the morning, I don't want to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go run for training for this marathon. But like, what difference is this going to make for me? What do I know about myself that says I can do this? And that just that question I asked and myself right in that morning, that's what gets me out of bed and gets me going. Once you get going, you're moving. You can do it. Or when I'm in the middle of the run and I'm saying, oh, I don't want to go do this. I want to stop. What tells me I can do this? What difference is it going to make if I keep going, and keep asking those questions to yourself?
Yeah, I love this, because when we think about the body is beyond incredible. It's the most incredible machine that
It's resilient.
You can't build it in a factory. It comes the natural way. But think about this, right? How come we don't fall off of our bed? The only time people fall out of bed is when they're babies, right? They're little, or they're tossing and turning. But in reality, as an adult, you barely ever, even as a teenager, you barely ever fall out of bed unless you're drunk. That's a different story, right? But your body understands that there's an edge there, and you can tumble and fumble and move and turn, but you don't fall out of bed, because your body understands that there's an edge. Just the same way your body will have an internal clock that you can wake up at any time you want if you intentionally set your clock, your internal clock. And so therefore, I believe in the aspect of everything you're talking about is to build oneself in a way that we actually harness the gifts we've been given. For me, I believe in God, so every morning I wake up in gratitude and I thank Him.
Sure.
Listen, I woke up. Woohoo! I'm alive. Thank you, Lord. I appreciate the gifts you've given me. And then I ask, how can I share my gifts? Because I don't want to be selfish, right?
Yeah.
I am very selfish when I'm in the mornings by myself, because I'm working on me. Every morning I work on me. Even at night before I go to sleep, I set my intentions for guidance in my sleep, so I can dream
Sure.
better, so I
Yeah,
can
it's that
understand.
liminal time, like we were talking about with the waking up and then going to sleep. Yeah, it's
Oh
very,
yeah,
very powerful time. Very powerful
that
time.
is extremely powerful because we can use that time because the mind doesn't stop,
Yeah.
right? Think about it. We've all heard of rapid eye movement, and when does that happen? When you go into a deep sleep. That means that your brain is working. So why not give it direction? Why
Exactly.
not give it instructions? Right? Because if they've done studies where they look at a person and their eyes are eyelids are closed, but your eyes are going because you're playing that picture, right? You have this theater of the mind, if you will. And so I love this conversation. Thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, I think one of the other things I want to say about going to sleep and the gratitude piece is that lots of people struggle with sleep. We wake up in the middle of the night, or we have trouble falling asleep because obviously we're racing. We have so much stimulus into our lives. It's not our
Mhm.
fault. There's the technology and the world is being built around our attention to grab it, and so there's a struggle there. And that gratitude at night is so helpful and important. Whether whatever the gratitude is for, it's for yours. One to yourself, but in general, that you can take it even larger to a much more spiritual level, like I do as well too. But that time at night is so important to get to give yourself that grace and that gratitude. And we have a set of 8 magic words, we call them, and that's the link that we have in there to get the 8 magic words. But one of them is so useful at night. It says at least, and it takes our brain from a fixed things like I didn't do this, or I can't do this, I'm not good at this. But if you say at least, or it's at least right now so far, and I can't remember the other one, but you can download the PDF to find out what it is. But the at least says, at least I did this today. At least I did this. At least I did this. And that oftentimes calms people down enough. It works for me too as well. At least I did this. And it takes away the guilt and shame of what you were doing, and you start to add that list up, and you're like, oh, at least I did this, at least I did that, or I'm not able to do that right now, or so far I haven't figured out how to do that. It just cracks the door open for possibility instead of that fixed brain. And even when you wake up in the middle of the night, one of the things I like to say is that some people get so stuck on trying to get 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep, and the data that they're tracking, and that could really get them stuck in that piece. And I just say, at least you're getting rest, and expanding the time in bed from sleep to sleep and recovery, or sleep and rest. And when you say, at least I'm getting rest, I might be up, and I might be up for the next 3-4 hours, but at least I'm getting rest. Your body is getting rest. And that's something different than the conventional wisdom, but it works so well because it's enough to often calm your nervous system to help you fall asleep. So at least is one of the 8 magic words, and I help you to have you check out the other ones. But I really want to bring that one up because it really falls into the gratitude at night and the ability to help calm your nervous system to help with sleep.
Yeah, I love it. One of my favorite words, and I teach it to all my clients, is yet. I can't do that yet.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's
Yet,
one of the 8 magic words. Not yet.
I can't do that yet.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just got to set the plan, right? Like
Yeah.
you couldn't beat that 2028, right? 828.
428 mile. Yeah.
428. I doubled that on you.
Yeah.
428, right? But then you came in under it, right?
Yeah.
And that's incredible. But because it was the proponent, if you will, of the yet part.
Yeah.
I can't do it yet, but I'm going to put my mind, my intention, my spirit into it, my action plan. Right?
Yeah.
So I think when we think about what the human potential is, we're limitless.
Yeah.
We haven't known how to fly yet, except when I was little. Somebody said Superman can fly, but Batman can't. I said, that's not true. He can fly down. If he jumped off a building, he could fly down. He just can't fly up. So
Well, I mean, we fly in jets. I just marvel. I always get the window seat because I'm always marvel.
yes,
I'm always in marvel at the fact. I'm like, wow, is this possible that we can even do
bigger
this?
than a house.
Yeah,
So
how does this even work? This is just a miracle.
it is a miracle. Let me share one more video with you if you don't
Okay.
mind. Take a look, everybody.
The city never sleeps, and neither do the dreamers who build its pulse. From every corner of the globe they come. Visionaries, creators, leaders, each carrying a spark ready to ignite the world. Not an event, it's a revolution of rhythm and reason. A symphony of minds, a movement of momentum. Sifu Rafael, Lancelot, Jose Escobar. Together they set the stage for brilliance. This is the NYC experience. Mastermind, light up the city. They coming from the east, coming from the west. Knowledge on deck, put the truth to the test. Leaders in motion, hearts in sync, dropping wisdom so deep it'll make you think. They bring stories, sweat and flame, different faces, one shared name. Elevation, that's the sound. NYC experience mastermind, where purpose is found.
Oh yeah, we have fun with that one. And that's happening December 6th and 7th. Anybody who wants to come to our New York City experience, by all means, just reach out. I'll put something in here so you can text us and enjoy what we're doing. So let's consider Stamina Lab. What does this stand for? Right. Obviously, the word stamina means that you're building up to something, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's about you having more energy, more resilience to last a lifetime. The stamina is over a lifetime. You want to be able to have a long health span and to really be able to bring out your goals and your dreams through the work that we do. And the lab part is really a key piece to it. It says, because we like to say, you are your own lab, you are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach. And that's really what we like to exemplify at Stamina Lab, is to help you understand, what do you want to do? What's the instead in your life? What difference will that make? And it's all about asking questions to yourself. And really the shift is with a solution focused approaches. We get people that say this is like 180-degree shift. We don't go down a root cause analysis of what's going wrong and why it happened, because that just brings up all the pain and the trauma of what you want to have, what happened. And really it's not necessary to know where you want to go, because eventually you're going to have to go to where you want to go instead, and what difference was it going to make. So you can just start there and really describe that, like I said, in as much detail as possible. And then again, it's being your own scientist, being your own detective, and looking for evidence that you're already on the path to that person you want to be. And there's doing that every day with yourself and asking these questions, because we have such a negativity mindset, because that's what evolution has taught us, is to be able to watch out for that lion to come eat us. So we have to continue to practice not only the lion, but all the companies that are building all these tools to take your attention. These are all built by the best behavioral scientists in the world. So this learning these techniques is not a nice to have. It is essential to survive in the modern world. That is the lion that's coming to get us. So we're trying to learn to ask ourselves better questions to continue to move us in the person that we want to be, and finding evidence of the capacity that we have inside ourselves to do that.
I love it. You made me think about, you talked earlier about getting in a cabin and not understanding where you're going. What if you got in a cabin, they took you wherever they wanted and didn't listen to you, right? Or, when we were youngsters, we really didn't have a choice of what food was put in front of us, right?
Yeah.
Our parents said, eat that, and that was it, right? But now we have choices. We can choose what foods we're going to eat. We can choose if we're going to move, if we're going to go to the gym, if we're going to get on the track, if we're going to go and walk outdoors. to me, and I'm not knocking anybody who does it because you're moving. I love movement. But wouldn't you rather walk outside than on a treadmill? That's just my opinion, right? And I have clients of mine. I have one guy. God bless him. He's been a client of mine 24 years, and he says, I will go outside and train and do all these things, but the minute it hits 37 degrees, I'm no longer going outside. I'm like, you're putting that limit on yourself, aren't you? Well, I just can't handle it. He just chooses not to. So we put limitations on what we're able to do. And then yesterday I had someone on my show who was stationed in Alaska for 4 years. Didn't like it, but did it. And this was for boot camp, right? This is where he went to train. This is where he was stationed. And they had to do drills outdoors for hours on end. Did he like it? No. Did he do it? Yes. So we should not put limitations on ourselves. I love this conversation today because I think between you and me, we're gonna help somebody understand that they're incredible. They're worth everything, and they need to take care of that beautiful temple that they have, that gift that they've been given.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, there's if you whatever movement you're doing or whatever is, there's evidence that you're actually on the path to change. And when it's hard, when you're in Alaska trying to do something, or like I said, I have to get up at 5 something in the morning to do this. It's to ask yourself, what difference is it going to make when I do this for that goal that I want to be? And that just to dig deeper to find that little bit extra is to really continue to visualize that future that you want to have. And that gives you that motivation to push beyond that little bit of pain that you have inside you to figure out a way to get that motivation. And what do I know about myself that tells me that I can do that? And because everyone has had a struggle in their life, and so tapping into that is really powerful.
It is. Glen, I love your mission. I love your passion. I love the fact that you have created a space for people to become the better version of who they truly are supposed to be. So many people stop believing in themselves. So I'm so happy that you're showing them that they can do better, right? Talk to us about this newsletter you keep telling us. It's running across the screen at the bottom. It's there. So share with us, why should somebody go and even look at your newsletter?
Yeah. So Inside Stamina Lab is every Tuesday. We publish a fantastic newsletter with links to our podcast and links to the articles that we publish, as well as coaching cues that ask these questions, these practical prompts that we put in every week to help you shift that mindset into this solution-focused approach to life. This is evidence-based. It has thousands of research studies, 100 meta-analysis of it, over 40 years of research that shows that this does lead to lasting change. And it does it without the guilt and shame of going back and beating yourself up from the mistakes that you made. And that's what makes it so powerful. And so every week you just get a little bit more that allows you to start asking yourself better questions. And if you do it, when you download it, you get the magic words that will open the door to more resilience.
So you gave us one. Can you share another one?
Yeah, well, it's at least right now. So whatever you say, I don't know how to do that right now. It's like the yet right now, or so far I haven't figured out how to do this, or so far I haven't done that. So if you download the PDF, it gives you a little more some practical exercises for able to put them into place and practice them. Again, it just shifts and opens up that door just a crack to be able to allow you for possibilities and creativity.
I love the 8 magic words to open up the door to more resilience. And that's self-talk, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and we do monthly quests at Stamina Lab, and right now we have the self-talk mastery quest going on. We have putting boundaries around the holidays. We have a resilience quest. We have a sleep mastery quest. So we have every month we have a new quest. If you join up, we have a group coaching program that allows you to participate in those quests, and those are fantastic. Again, it's just asking these questions, and it's the same science. It's the same solution focused science. We just put different lens on it to say, oh, if you look at it this way, and it really helps people who are in the program for 6 to 8 months on the program. They start to say, oh, okay, I didn't get it when we looked at it this way, but when we looked at it this way, I'm like, now, or once you start asking the questions multiple different ways, oh, now I'm starting to get that these questions. And I start asking them myself. Right. And lots of times you say, what will you notice, or what would someone else notice about you in the future? Sometimes we say, what would your pets notice about you? What would be different? And we had one client recently, she's like, I had this cat that was she was never talking to me. She was in the corner. Don't bother me. I don't want to be touched. And so over time, she's been asking these questions, and her goal is to be more calm. She's had lots of anxiety from her business that she sold, and I just want to be more calm, being a little nicer. And so she keeps asking these questions about herself. And she said recently, she said, "What, the cat that's a mean cat has started to come up and touch me and play with me." And I'm like, I don't understand it. But it's that the cat's noticing that there's something different.
Yeah, big proponent as to who's watching you and what do they see. Right.
Yeah. Because it gives you a different lens. And sometimes it's hard to ask yourself the questions yourself. So if you put the lens on somebody else and have them, even if it's just your imagination, what would they notice? It allows you to have a little bit of distance and gives you a little more perspective.
Yeah, I love it. Glen, wow, powerful, my friend. Do me a favor, don't go away. But everybody, do yourself a favor and maybe rewatch this, because you're like, oh wow, that was pretty cool. And then share it with somebody who needs to listen to this podcast, because some of the things that were shared today, life-changing. So let's go. All right, my friend. Everybody have yourself an exceptional rest of your day, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.